Nosferatu, his name alone sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? Created at a time when the world was desperate for something terrifying, he's more than just a vampire. He's a manifestation of fear itself. But before we dive into his sinister story, let's talk about what makes Nosferatu different from any other vampire you've seen or read about. Nosferatu isn't your typical Dracula or suave creature of the night. No, he's something far worse. With his long, bony fingers, rat-like face, and ghastly stare, Nosferatu looks more like a walking corpse than a sophisticated monster. He's not after love or wealth. He's purely a creature of hunger and darkness. This grotesque form was no accident. It was a deliberate attempt to make him as unnerving as possible. The creators of Nosferatu wanted to strip away the romance from vampire myths and create a being that symbolized plague and decay. His appearance alone tells you he's more predator than man, and that's exactly what he is, a parasite who spreads death wherever he goes. So now that we know what he is, let's step into his story and witness the terror of Nosferatu. The story begins in a quaint town nestled in the heart of Europe, where the days are warm and the nights are filled with a kind of unsettling silence. Hutter, a young, ambitious real estate agent, is sent to a faraway land to meet a new client, a man who wants to buy a house in Hutter's town. The client's name? Count Orlok. As Hutter embarks on his journey, he hears whispers and warnings from the locals. Don't go there, they say, their eyes wide with fear. The Count is not what he seems, but Hutter, being a practical man, dismisses their superstitions. He's focused on closing the deal and returning home to his beloved wife, Ellen. It's only when he arrives at Orlok's decrepit castle high in the Carpathian Mountains that he begins to understand what the villagers were afraid of. The place is cold, devoid of life, and the shadows seem to move on their own. But Hutter's curiosity gets the better of him, and he knocks on the massive wooden door. When it creaks open, he's greeted by a figure unlike any he's ever seen. Count Orlok stands before him, tall and thin, his eyes gleaming in the dim light. His face is skeletal with sharp, twisted features, and his presence is suffocating. Hutter feels an instinctive urge to run, but he stays because that's what people do, right? They ignore their gut and try to rationalize the inexplicable. He tells himself Orlok is just an eccentric man living in an old castle. Little does he know, he's standing face to face with death itself. Despite the Count's unsettling nature, Hutter pushes forward with his mission. He presents the documents, maps, and property details, doing his best to maintain his composure. Orlok seems strangely interested in the town Hutter came from, specifically in its proximity to the sea and its bustling port. There's a moment where Orlok's eyes linger on a photo of Hutter's wife, Ellen. What a beautiful neck she has, Orlok murmurs, his voice low and almost hungry. The comment sends a shiver down Hutter's spine, but he brushes it off as nothing more than awkward conversation. The deal is made, the papers are signed, and Hutter believes he's succeeded. Yet, as the night wears on, he realizes his mistake. The castle, once just a collection of old stone and dark hallways, now feels like a prison, and he's the prisoner. That night he wakes up to find Orlok standing over him, staring with those dead, soulless eyes. Hutter tries to scream, but no sound escapes his throat. Orlok's shadow falls over him, and everything goes black. When Hutter finally escapes the castle, battered and weak, he's too late. Count Orlok has already begun his journey to the town Hutter calls home. He travels not by horse or carriage, but by ship, an ancient vessel filled with coffins. Inside each coffin lies not just the Count's resting place, but dozens of rats. This isn't just a relocation, it's an invasion. As the ship sails into port, a strange sickness spreads through the town. People fall ill, their bodies wasting away, and soon the streets are littered with the dead. The townsfolk, desperate for answers, turn to science, medicine, and religion, but nothing works. It's as if death itself has come to claim them, and in a way, it has. Every night more people die, and every morning the rats, those filthy, disease-ridden rats, spread further. The town is in chaos. Fear and hysteria grip the people as they speak of a dark figure seen skulking in the alleys and creeping along the rooftops. The whispers grow louder. Nosferatu is here. Count Orlok isn't just feeding on the townspeople, he's consuming their very essence, leaving behind nothing but empty shells of what they once were. As the plague spreads, Ellen, Hutter's wife, begins to have strange dreams. She sees visions of the Count, of his long, clawed fingers reaching out for her. She feels a strange connection to him, almost as if she's being drawn to his darkness. One night, Ellen reads an old book that Hutter brought back from the Carpathian Mountains, a book that speaks of creatures of the night, of the Nosferatu. She learns that the only way to defeat such a creature is for a pure-hearted woman to offer herself willingly, keeping the monster occupied until the first light of dawn. Knowing what she must do, Ellen makes a fateful decision. She sends Hutter away, telling him to leave the town and save himself, and then she waits. When Count Orlok finally appears, Ellen doesn't scream or run. Instead, she invites him in, her voice calm but trembling with fear. Orlok approaches her slowly, his eyes locked on hers. He can sense her fear, her life force. She's offering herself as a sacrifice, but he's too consumed by his hunger to care. He lunges forward, his teeth sinking into her neck. As Orlok feeds, the night stretches on, darker and colder than ever before. Ellen's strength begins to wane, but she holds on, keeping the Count by her side. Outside, the sky begins to lighten, and a thin sliver of sunlight creeps over the horizon. Suddenly, Orlok stiffens. He realizes too late what's happening. He tries to pull away, but Ellen clings to him, her last act of defiance. The sunlight streams through the window, catching Orlok in its deadly rays. His skin blisters and smokes, and then he bursts into flames, disintegrating into nothing but ash. Ellen collapses, her life slipping away as the town's nightmare finally ends. The rats disappear, the sickness fades, and the people slowly begin to rebuild. But the memory of Nosferatu, of Count Orlok's terrible reign, will never truly be forgotten. Hutter returns to find Ellen's lifeless body, a tragic reminder of the cost of defeating such a monstrous evil. The town mourns her as a hero, but there's no celebration, no joy, just a haunting silence that lingers long after the sun sets each night. Though Count Orlok is gone, the shadow he cast over the town remains. The people speak in hushed voices about what happened, never daring to utter the name Nosferatu. And as the years pass, the story becomes a dark legend, a whispered warning to anyone who might think that evil can be so easily defeated. Even now, there are those who believe that Nosferatu never truly died, that his essence lingers, waiting for the right moment to return. Because that's the thing about monsters, they never really go away. They just hide in the shadows, biding their time until someone is foolish enough to let them back in. And so, the tale of Nosferatu endures, a chilling reminder that some horrors are timeless.